Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. Just wanted to take a minute here to show you some of the details of the just updated 2025 Nissan Armada. I've got a full review of this vehicle up on my site if you're interested. Just wanted to point out a couple of things, subjectively and maybe even objectively that I like about the way they laid out the interior. Obviously, it's got a big LCD touchscreen display. It's actually two that are integrated to look like one, and that's in keeping with the general trend toward putting these things in place of the analog gauge clusters that vehicles used to have. I've always critiqued these things because while they may look hip and with it, as Dr. Evil used to say, it's problematic to try to operate these things while the vehicle's moving. So, you go to a showroom and you sit in the car like I'm doing now. That's why I decided to take this video without the vehicle moving, and it's easy enough to look at the icons and push what you want. But if you can imagine, when you're moving, even in a vehicle like this, it has a nice smooth ride. Still, nonetheless, you're going to have, some movement, and it's much more difficult to operate it. Now, here's the punchline. I think Nissan has done a very good job of including a lot of secondary controls that are tactile, like this volume knob right here. I don't have to look at this to operate this. Really like that a lot. And also, you'll notice too that there are buttons here that you can use to change the radio station. And over here as well, you've got a knob, nice big one too, that you can use to adjust the various drive settings. You can see this thing's got a lot of drive settings. And the four-wheel drive system also toggle switch operations, so you don't have to tap, swipe, and scroll through menus to access those functions. Here's the way that you engage the various drive ranges: park, obviously, reverse, neutral drive, and so on. And this thing's got a height adjustable suspension too that you can use. At any rate, I like that they have sort of blended the look of the modern with the classically, timelessly, ergonomically functional, old school type interfaces without it looking like it's old, which is important with a vehicle like this, because these SUVs now in particular, they're starting around $60,000 or close to it, and escalating up from there. Now, the other thing about it, and you've probably already heard about this, Nissan is one of the latest manufacturers to remove the big V8 that used to be standard in their big SUV. This model used to come with a 5.6 liter V8. It now comes with a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. The interesting thing, though, is that while this engine is a lot smaller than the previous V8, it's actually significantly stronger, particularly as regards torque. It puts out close to 520 foot-pounds now, which is up considerably from, I think it was 413 last year. So it's a substantial increase in torque, and the torque comes on at lower speed because that's sort of a perk that you get with the turbo. And it uses actually slightly less gas if you're easy with the gas pedal than the old V6 did. So all of that's really nice. It's the way they've made lemonade out of lemons. The chief reason that vehicle manufacturers are ditching big V8 engines and big engines generally in favor of smaller turbocharged ones is for reasons of compliance. It's a way for them to deal with the federal government's fuel economy requirements that continue to go up incrementally every year, and after a while you sort of exhaust the possibilities for getting another couple of miles per gallon out of an engine. You can put an 8 or 9 speed automatic in place of a 4 or 5 speed automatic. You can use direct injection rather than just fuel injection, but you kind of hit a wall at a certain point because a larger displacement engine is just necessarily going to use more fuel because you've got more cylinders pumping constantly, and there's really no effective way to turn that off. I know you've probably heard about cylinder deactivation technology, but nonetheless, you've still got those pistons moving and the bores are bigger and all of that. So they go with the smaller engines for the sake of compliance, i.e. it'll get better gas mileage, at least on paper, and add the turbo for that on-demand boost. So it's kind of a win for everybody, pretty much, except in one respect, or two maybe. The first being that the costs do continue to go up. I mentioned in my article that a big SUV such as the Armada and all the other ones in the class, frankly, if you look up the Tahoe's prices, you look up the Toyota Sequoia's prices and so on, as recently as 3-4 years ago, these vehicles started in the high 40s. You know, now they're starting about $8,000 to $10,000 higher. And yeah, I know some of that is inflation, but some of it is also compliance costs. And it's making it increasingly difficult for the kinds of people, you know, regular Americans used to just be the mass market for these SUVs, to buy them, because they're kind of slipping over the line into luxury SUV territory. And on the upside, you know, these things are now quite luxurious in every meaningful way except for the badge, but they're also expensive. And I think that's going to push a lot of people out of the showroom, unfortunately. Anyway, there's more over at EP Autos if you're interested. I hope you'll stop by. Also, I just posted my long, about 2 hours, appearance on Knights of the Storm with Jason Barker that happened yesterday. If you're interested in that, that's up there as well. And thanks as always for viewing, and we will have more for you again soon.